let's go and get started off with location-wise. How important was you to shoot this set in the Ozarks, actually in the region?
It was really important to me. I had wanted to film something here for a long time, and when I had the genesis of the character that was going to propel this story, you know, almost immediately I start thinking about where. You know, once I'm like, okay, this is who this person is. Their journey is going to be, I can kind of see the shape of their journey a little bit, and then I almost immediately begin to ask myself, well, where can this be? And having lived for 4 years in Fayetteville, I always found this area extremely evocative and powerful, and you know, containing some kinds of primordial images and reactions. You know, we were hoping we could make it work here the whole time, because you know, you have to film where you have to film, but I knew we wouldn't have the same show if we weren't here. And I also felt like it was a chance to, you know, I know there's another show called Ozark, but I don't believe they film anywhere here. So to me, it was a bit like Louisiana in season 1, in that we had a chance to show this to the world, like the world's never really seen this. And in, you know, and in addition, I feel landscape is a character, definitely in what I do, and I wanted that character. I didn't want to have a thin, superficial stand-in for that character. I wanted it. So it was incredibly important, and we couldn't be more gratified that we got to do it here. And yeah.
As a novelist, also having done screenplays and looking at this, when you look at the long story arc of you know, episodic television, and even though it's a shorter season, maybe 8 episodes or what have you, how does that work for you as a creative when you're putting everything together and thinking about that long story arc?
Well, I'm always taking it into account, because that's what I'm doing. You know, I don't think generally in terms of I guess certain superficial episodic tricks that you know, tend to be employed to get hooks in and people coming back or talking about something because you did something outre or you hit upon a supposedly hot button topic. I'm just always concerned with character, and so the long format is the character's overall arc, and then the bigger and more complicated the arc, the more power I think the longer format has, and particularly this season where, you know, this is 35 years of a man's life, and it covers a lot. And then to do that while still fulfilling the tenets of the genre and providing the sort of surface and visceral experiences people want, marrying the two, that's about, I feel about as comfortable doing that as anything. I really like it. And then directing this year was, you know, another step on that journey, but it felt very organic and of a piece with what I was already doing anyway. So that answer the question?
Yeah.
Keep in mind too that it's only 8 hours for the audience. It represents about 2 years for both Nick and myself, and the last year of it here in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So it's, please, 8 hours is plenty.
Yeah.
You know, to try to keep quality and the storytelling organic and visceral. 8 hours is about the limit at this level.
That actually ties into something too. I wanted to
It's
ask
500
about.
pages of script too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Significant amount of work.
You say short season, I say 500 pages of script.
True. Production this size, this magnitude, in all these different locations around the region, what is that like for you, putting all of that together and making it happen?
Well, it's what I do, so it's you know, another day at the office, so to speak. But here in Arkansas, it's been surprisingly a lot easier, because we found so many locations right where we all live. I mean, this is our farthest location from Fayetteville, period. We had one day in Fort Smith. Everything else hasn't been further than Rogers. And most of the time, I leave my house 5 minutes before I need to be at work. And it's been glorious. And everything that we've needed is right at our fingertips. From period architecture to abandoned buildings that still evoke the 80s. It's all been right at our fingertips. So this season, unlike a lot of seasons, has been a little bit easier because we've had the luxury of extra time because we're not commuting.
And everywhere you point the camera here is treasure. You know, that's a real benefit.
Yeah.
What's it been like employing local actors and crew into a production this size, especially one from HBO?
It's been very smooth. You know, it's felt smooth. It's felt organic. It's felt proper, and that we do want to integrate with the lives that are here and have these ambitions, and maybe something like us doesn't pass through very often. We've really enjoyed all our local actors, and the local additions to our crew have been great across the board.
Lends a real authenticity to what we do. Getting people that live here and speak like they live here and look like they live here, you really can't put a value on that.
You talked about Arkansas or landscape being a character. How will the audience see Arkansas as that character?
Well, I think landscape is a character because it reflects and influences the human characters around it, and in some ways, visually and aesthetically, metaphysically, it embodies certain journeys the characters go on. You know, the mystery of the deep woods, the fog over the mountains, the rivers, the water, the sense of scale when you get out into some of this nature. You know, also the what the buildings say about the lives behind those buildings. So I feel like people will see it as as an extension of character and something that embodies characters' emotional journeys while influencing those journeys. You know, every place we look tells a story about the people who have been there and are there now or no longer there. And I feel like that kind of texture and dimensionality enhances the character and the mystery that drive what we do.
Looking at the fact that you were talking about making the move into directing at this point, it seems like a natural extension. If you're creating and thinking everything, it seems like that'd be the place you'd want to be at anyway, because then you have control to make it seem like as you thought it.
Yeah, and I always did that anyway.
Yeah.
So we just kind of cut out the middleman for a second, I think.
Having lived in Fayetteville for as long as you did,
Mhm.
and as you're writing this, were there things that were sticking out in mind, like, I have to incorporate this, I know this is going to play out really well? How much did that factor in?
A little bit. You know, Devil's Den was definitely a centerpiece for us. But also just having a sense of the region. It was a little like Louisiana in that I knew what we would find. So I knew what I wanted to see, and sometimes what I wanted to see was an old country church next to a pawn shop. And there's one, you know? So that's nice. It's nice to have this reality that's consummate with your imagination, because having lived here, once you think about it, your imagination's geared to what you've experienced there. And then you have the chance to capture something authentic, I think.
Great, we got one more?
Yeah, one more. There was a Fayetteville police officer, Rustin Cole. I was just curious, was there any sort of time that you knew about him, or is it?
That's the first I've ever heard of that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
How do you spell Cole?
I think it's C-O-L-E. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Still, wow.
Interesting.
No.